Okay, I guess we're on live now. Welcome everybody. Welcome to another hangout with us, and I'm Kali Glover, also known as Khaliq-O-Vision. I'm here with all the usual suspects here and everything, and a lot of Pensado students watching us, and a lot of other people from YouTube and all around the world. Everybody trying to pitch in, learn, absorb from each other, bump elbows and everything. Mine's a little ashy right now, but that's okay. and I'm just having fun here. I love doing this and hanging out with you guys. We're going to share all of our information and share some of our experience and everything to help you guys go on and get better and elevate your game in the music world, no matter what it is. We don't just cover, this isn't just for engineers because I want to cover from a whole broad spectrum. So we're talking to musicians, talking to songwriters, talking to performers like singers and anything else that you got that you may want to know what it takes to be in that upper echelon of folks that break through, And we're all sharing from our different perspectives, and lots of years and decades of knowledge in here. A lot of people, some have awards, some have just great experience and knowledge, and they're still making their path, but that doesn't mean that anything is any less. There's a lot of people that have some great stuff. I've learned a ton. No matter how long I've been in it, it's always eye-opening for me, and I feel great to be able to share with you guys. So this is a wonderful thing that I love doing. Try to always keep it regular. Today I wanted to get into the subject because I told you guys I've been a guitar player, and I started out as a guitar player, so I want to go ahead. Oh, let me do something real quick. Well, I started out as a guitar player, so I wanted to, and I have been kind of getting back to it. I kind of slipped over the last few weeks, but I'm going to get back to it gradually and everything. But one of the things I wanted to talk about today is let's focus a little bit more on guitars, recording and mixing guitars, and some of the things that came up that I know that I've seen, things that I've learned. Want to learn from your experiences. There's some new tools and plugins out here and everything, and just want to kind of toss that around with everybody. Tossing it from not only recording and mixing, but also say from live performance. There's different ways of doing things when you've got to do gigs and stuff like that. A lot of ways to approach this stuff. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to post this thing in the chat box. So if anybody wants to send this out to anybody they want to come in with us, feel free to. I just did. It's in the chat box. And I see we got Mitchell on here, and everybody else is coming in too. I got the link in there for you guys, and let me see. I'm gonna check in the Pensado students real quick and be sure everybody's cool with that. And hey, Dave and Joseph. Well, let me start with
Yeah.
Joseph. Joseph, I want to start with you actually, because you're a guitar player, man, and I want you to come on here today. I think that's a good subject for the. We've had some really good ones. I hope Jason Constantine joins us and everything. You guys have a lot of experience and really impassioned in your approach to dealing with guitars in particular. I'm going to share some of my things, because I've been able to work with a lot of good people. So I learned a lot of tips directly from him and directly from trying different things as well. Joseph, why don't you talk to us for a little bit and tell us what your thoughts are on recording, mixing the guitar, and anything you think can be helpful for today.
Well, right off the top of my head, and I'm not sure why I thought of this, but if you've ever recorded and mixed any organs, then you'd probably be good at mixing guitars because they're so close, to
That's
the
interesting.
yeah,
Wow,
they
that's
they really
interesting.
are, especially the like the church organs and stuff, gospel. Um,
Well, why is that?
that
Why do you say? I mean, I know why you saying that. It's
yeah,
funny, but
well,
explain
okay,
it. Go a
why?
little deeper.
It's the main frequency spectrum that both instruments reside in. Of course, they if you go from the low keys to the high keys, you're pretty much going from the beginning of the neck to the top of the neck, and it's very similar to me. And I I think what's kind of neat is you can split a lot of times. You can split the low end on an organ and keep that up the center, and you know, by doubling a track and putting a filter on the high end and keeping that in the middle, you know, that part of the organ in the middle, and then the other doing the opposite, putting a filter on the low end, and panning that out a little bit, or you know, if you want stereo, or you know, just push it to the right. Let's just say after you've done that, and you've got a nice low end organ in the middle, and you've got the high end twinkle over on the right side, and you've got a nice crunch guitar coming in, or maybe it's going to be a little gospel, so it's got a little bit of distortion, not much, and it's going to be playing some lead lines, you know, something kind of cool. You're going to be sharing a lot of that audio spectrum, so you're going to watch how they interconnect with each other. You know, same with the piano, I think. You know, maybe not as much, but pretty much, you know, almost the same. And you know, you're going to pick. For me, I pick the frequencies I want to highlight the most. For example, I'm careful with automating EQ for a guitar, electric and acoustic.
Why is that?
Well, with acoustic specifically, reasons of, you know, I might want to take out some more low end at specific times because I might have a bass part that's going to crank up a little bit, or I'm going to have a piano that's going to crank up, or maybe even the singer's got a low voice if it's a male with a lower voice, you know. It helps. I find that automating the EQ helps me with balance, because I think that's extremely important. And like we've said before at times, you know, if you got a bass guitar that's plucking some notes and they pluck a few a little harder than the others, you know, you can zone in on that specific range, and either you know, gain, use the gain, automate the gain down, you know, on Pro Tools, or volume automate it, or EQ automate. And I have a tendency to automate my EQ more now than I ever did, because it helps me maintain the vibe that I'm trying to impart on whatever track it is, even if it could be anything. But specifically, you know, with the guitar, I might want to bump with something in the 3,000 hertz if it's a nice lead coming in, and I might pick up, you know, that nasty frequency around 400. You know, depending on the accompanying instruments, there may be times when I want to boost that. Believe it or not, most people have a tendency to automatically say, "Oh, 400, you know, let's notch that out." And I don't always go that route. You know, I do a lot of one-man stuff. You know, singer-songwriter stuff, and that acoustic guitar can get really out of hand. You know, as much as I love the way it sounds when you record it, those overtones can just take over. You know, and I find I do a lot of notch filtering with an acoustic guitar, but I will automate some of those notches to help it reinforce the voice at particular times. You know, I might thin that guitar out a little bit during a verse so the voice is standing out. And then during the chorus, when the singer is belting a little more, then I'm going to back off on some of those notches and get that guitar a little fuller. I'm speaking in just generalities.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, right.
Some good stuff, man. Good information. And here's something relating to EQ and everything that I think will be helpful. So I want your opinion on it. I know there's, well, you know, I'm going to just let you talk from your point of view. But here's something that somebody might want to think about when you're using and thinking about EQing, especially something like you said, the acoustic guitar to get stuff out the way. You mentioned there's three different possibilities. You can use, you know, high pass filters, low pass filters, general EQ to find what it is, or notch filters, you know. Now, in the case of the acoustic guitar that we were just talking about, and forgetting about notch filters for a second to get rid of specific frequencies to notch them out. We're going to act like we don't need them. It sounds perfect. But where would you approach using, would you reach for a filter first, or would you reach for a shelving EQ first?
Believe it or not, I would use both. I would filter out at maybe 80 hertz down. I might not need anything there at all. in this scenario, let's just say it's a singer and a guitar on his own.
Mm-hmm.
I still may not need anything below 80 hertz, and I may want to take that from that 80 hertz, especially the 100, 200 range up to 300, and I might want to just use a shelf on that and bring it
Mm-hmm.
down. And
Mm-hmm.
that shelf is what I may automate the most in terms of the verse chorus
Mm-hmm.
concept, where I might want a little more oomph in the chorus and less in the verse, supporting the vocals, of course. Um, but yeah, for me, definitely, I think I think the shelf is a filter that doesn't get talked about a whole lot,
Yeah.
and it's very useful.
And plus,
Did that answer your
there's several
question?
different types of shelves. A lot of people don't
Yes.
realize that, but a shelf can have a resonant peak and a dip right around where your
Mm-hmm.
frequency is at, depending on how it's set up. This is why Neve EQs and certain other EQs have a certain signature where they
Mm-hmm.
might have this little resonant bump and dip right in a certain area. You have to kind of envision that in your mind first as far as when you're listening to the sound to see if that's something that might be helpful. And especially, I think it's really important when you're doing shelving and you're lowering the stuff on the low end, because you still might want to have a peak somewhere within there, and you may,
Mm-hmm.
and plus then the slope of how it gets in, because sometimes it slopes right up, other times it could be a natural dip and then slope gradually up, peak,
Sure.
right at that one spot and then come back down. So a lot of people don't realize that shelving EQs, depending on the brand you have or whether you're using a analog EQ, may have different curves of the way that it shelves.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a straight flat shelf. Not necessarily, unless some clinical EQs have that, and that might be what you want. But the EQs that have a sonic signature, a color type of EQ, many times have that type of feature
Mm-hmm.
built in. So, do you experiment with those kind of things too?
First, yes, I do. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, 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 no. Go ahead.
All
I
right.
was done.
The first EQ that if I'm going to start tailoring the sound, the first EQ that I would grab most of the time would be a stock Pro Tools EQ, the EQ3 7 band.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first one I would grab. That's going to be, for the most part, going to take away whatever it is I don't want. That's going to start the automation process, maybe on that level even.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing I'm going to do is sweeten that sound. That's where I'm going to try to find that mojo that's in
Right,
that
right.
track. And then I've done things as weird as getting something that I've heard used on heavy metal a lot. The Waves VEQ, vintage EQ. Where it really imparts a sonic sound on. You get four selections of harmonic content. Odd and even harmonics, and I believe it's two of each, and you can really, really hear the difference that VEQ from Waves will put on an acoustic guitar. Now it doesn't work all the time, but that's just one example of an EQ that I would use for tone shaping that may not be one of the first ones that people would think about. Because it's more associated with heavy metal.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
HEQ even I think is a plugin that I've never hear people talking about. Of course, I don't really talk to a whole lot of people either. But the HEQ is a really I think that's a very fine EQ
It's
for
very
imparting
nice.
certain signature or certain sound into either an acoustic or an electric for that matter.
Oh yeah,
Now that's when I'm thinking more additive.
yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
I'm using that digi stock EQ for my subtractive stuff, which usually all happens first.
Mm-hmm.
And with the acoustic, it's already a compressed instrument by nature. When you're, especially if you got a heavy strummer or guy's got a pretty heavy hand. I mean, that's a compressed. That the sound coming from that's already compressed to some degree in that box.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not one to grab a compressor too quick on an acoustic guitar. That's for
I
sure.
got you. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, and if I do, it's only going to be to tame some of that. If there's some really hard transients, maybe. But
Right.
now in Pro Tools 10 and 11 especially, that I love that clip gain.
Clip gain, yeah.
Yeah, I just love it. I mean, for
Yeah,
gain staging, it's fantastic. You know,
it
I
really
really
is.
do. Hmm.
That is such a powerful way. Ever since they put that in, I mean, that's
Hmm.
definitely my go-to because that keeps your dynamics happening. It keeps the peaks and valleys and the performance
Hmm.
intact, but controls the things that normally you would have to break out a sledgehammer, to
Yeah,
get in the
exactly.
past. So you
Hmm.
can really get in and dial it and make it like it was part of a natural, organic performance. And
Hmm.
then if you need a little bit of EQ, I mean, a little bit of compression or limiting or whatever, you have to
Hmm.
use a lot less. You can, with the clip gain, you can sculpt your waveform to
Right.
be optimized for compression,
Yes.
which is really good.
Oh, I
Yeah.
agree with you 100% on that. It's fantastic. I think that's the best thing. For me, that was worth the price of admission right there.
I'm wondering, like,
Uh,
what took them so long?
I really don't know.
Yeah, yeah, right. And
Oh.
you know, and Bill, I want you to get ready too, because I want you to talk from the
Hmm.
point of view, Bill, since you're a Logic user. We're talking about
Hmm.
Pro Tools, but there's a lot of
Hmm.
Logic users out here as well. And
Hmm.
so I want to get Bill on in a second to talk from that point of view. I used to use Logic all the time. I was actually a pretty big master of Logic in the early years, because me and Dave dealt with eMagic quite a lot back in the day. And I always try to mention any of the manufacturers over the course of time that give us love and everything. I like to mention their names just to let them know that we do appreciate it. So when I mention like UAD or Fab
Hmm.
Filter and these people out here that are out here now. Well, I don't want to forget about some of the folks in the past too, because all of these tools, man, they've just been great and they move things along. But Logic used to be by a company called eMagic before Apple acquired them, and
Hmm.
we were really big with them, especially back when we were working with Herbie, because Herbie was a huge, huge Logic user.
Hmm. I've never used Logic yet, never.
Really, yeah.
You know, I got my start with Cubase.
Another
That
great
came
program. Yeah.
it came with the disc came was Cubase 3. Right when 3 came out, I that was close to 10 years ago. Well, for me, it was 10 years ago at least.
Hmm.
Um, they could have had 4 or 5 out. I'm not sure, but I bought think of the name of it. It's some not too high end brand of 16 mic preamps and a digital mixer type
Right.
thing.
Hmm.
Analog beginning stage of digital and that was the first program that I got my digital fingers wet on.
Interesting. Yeah, it
Hmm.
was good. Yeah, I've been through a lot of the different ones, and then you settle in on what just kind of fits who you are. So Logic worked for me
Hmm.
for a good time. I haven't used Logic in a long time now, so I lost my Logic skills, but
Hmm.
I still highly recommend it. I really like
Hmm.
Studio One a lot, and and I still like, I use Cubase. I never got super deep into it, but I like Cubase too. So
Hmm.
it's really good. And what I want to do, I don't know if Bill is indisposed at the moment, or he's probably taking care of some things. So I'll come back to Bill. Dave, I wanted to talk to
Yeah,
you real quick.
Hmm.
Oh, Dave, wait, hold on, before I say so, I just want to say, what's up, Track Slash? We haven't seen
back
you in a
slash
while,
high.
man.
Hmm.
What's
What's up,
up,
man?
man? Say something to us. Come on, bro. Unmute
Come on,
yourself.
man.
There we
Turn,
go. We see the top of your head, bro.
yeah, turn the glare down.
There we go. What's going on, man? You got your microphone happening? Oh, he's still working on it. Okay. All right, we're gonna come back to you, bro. I'm gonna keep it moving here. And what's up,
Yeah.
bro? We got Remil on here. What's going on? You
Hey, how
got your
you
microphone?
doing, man? How are you?
All right,
Hey,
man. Good to
It's
see
actually,
you.
thank you. It's actually the first time I joined in.
I appreciate
oh,
you coming in and hanging out with us, man. Since
Oh,
you're a brand new on here with us, it's your first time. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us where you're at, and kind of give us a little background on what you do, and why why you wanted to hang out with us.
first of all, I always like to hang out around experienced people. you always learn. So actually, I heard about the group from Bill this
Cool.
morning. I'm in New York. I'm New York City, and
Oh, cool.
I'm a home studio guy. And I work with a lot of Latin stuff, from urban stuff to like let's say merengue, salsa,
Oh, cool.
and all that kind of stuff. So I joined the Pensados students group a while ago, and it's been a place where you learn a lot because there's a lot of people with different experiences. So I'm sure that with every project that you work on, you learn something new. So I'm just a home studio guy, and I'm here to learn. That's it.
Cool, cool. And you're a musician, obviously, too. I see the keyboards back there and
Yeah,
all that. Yeah, cool.
yes, I'm a piano player, and I started when I was like I'm 25 years old. I started when I was about 9. I took classes for like 2 years.
Ah, okay.
And then somehow, I don't know why, I stopped taking classes, but I continued playing in church. So through the years, I kept playing in church, and I learned to play by ear. So if you put a sheet of paper, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do. But if you sing, or you put something, I'll be able to follow. And
Right.
then I came up, with that love for music. I wish I had pursued, learning how to read and stuff, which I know I'm not late to. But after that, I continue. I always loved music, and then I'm originally from Dominican Republic, and
Hmm.
I came to the United States around 2004. So it was a rough transition because I was a teenager, and basically what I used to do after school was just mess with Fruity Loops and try to make beats and stuff.
Fruity Loops.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and then little by little, I got interested in the whole recording deal, mixing and all that. So I just continued working, making beats, and then started collaborating with friends, and that's pretty much it. Right now, I use Presonus Studio One as my main DAW for producing and also mixing,
Oh, cool.
and that's it.
Okay, that's cool, man. Cool. How long have you been at it? Oh, well, you said since you're 25 now, and since you were what, 9 or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, something like that.
Oh man, you've been at it a long time, bro. Yeah, 16 years. That's pretty good. So and so you are a songwriter and producer as well.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Is that what your main thing is, and you're learning some engineering stuff to enhance that?
Well, I started as that, just doing my own songs and stuff, and then let's say about 2 years ago, I got interested in the whole recording deal, engineering, mixing. So I started, looking through the internet, watching tutorial videos, reading, and then like kind of a passion started for that. So since then, I've been just going through the website, doing my own stuff. I started doing collaborations with different artists, local artists, and then and that's how I go about things pretty much.
Oh, cool. Um, hey man, I just put a link. You know how to go to the chat bar on the side?
Okay, I see it. I see it.
Go to that link there, man, and it's a good guide where you can learn some good stuff about playing by ear. Good friend of
Perfect.
mine named Jermaine, and he's really good with teaching folks. I mean, you already know how, but he's really good with linking the two as far as the theory behind it without you having to. It's some real advanced stuff. Real advanced stuff that I'm sure you'll learn and just grow from just dealing with that guy.
Perfect. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that website for anybody else that's watching us too. If you go to hearandplayit.com, which is HEAR, hear and play, PLAY, it.com. Go to hearandplayit.com, and you can get some great information about tying music theory in with working with ear training and your natural ear that has led you along if you don't read music and things like that. This will tie all the things together. The stuff that you're hearing in your head, you'll start knowing why. You'll start imagining things more in your brain and knowing how to pull it out of your hands and fingers, whether it's, and now this is mainly for say keyboards and stuff like that, and a lot of gospel stuff and all that, but there's jazz as well, salsa, all kinds of things. So it can just take your musicianship to a whole nother level. I just wanted to give a little plug for my boy there because he has a great site that teaches you a lot.
Thank you, man. I definitely appreciate it, and I know I'll be able to learn something from there. I'm into mixing rhythms, genres. I'm into creating new things. For instance, I like a lot of the EDM stuff, electronic dance music, and then I try to combine that with like the Latin stuff, and then that's what I'm all about.
Oh, very cool. And since you mentioned EDM and all that as well, we got Mitchell on here that I know that's a huge interest of him. In fact, I'll put him on. Mitchell, why don't you talk to my man and everything? He sounds like y'all got some good stuff in common. What's going on, man?
EDM, what's up with you?
Yeah, man.
Did you ever see me play live? Come on. I played jazz, mate.
Well, you did say jazz, but you said EDM too, didn't you? I thought you said you were a bit into that.
That's what I produce for
right.
a living, but
Yeah. So I
living
mean,
and a craft is two different things, man.
yeah, no, I hear you. Well, the one thing is, and it's a good tie-in. Knowing jazz can help you do any type of style like that. I mean, really, there's a lot of people that are doing some pretty advanced stuff in EDM, and you can tell that they know theory and they know how to put things, so it goes beyond just the sounds, and the beats and things like that. Knowing how to put all that stuff together and still know a bit of like jazz theory and things like that can make what you do stand out above people that do basic stuff.
Last week, Mitchell played a track after the hangout, and he played a track for me, and he said something like, I'm going to paraphrase this. He said, now this is kind of unique. You're going to hear this suggesting a D minor flat seventh to the diminished ninth. And I said, what the heck is that? I mean, I don't remember the chord. It was some kind of D flat sharp diminished ninth.
It was
augmented something.
D,
What?
E flat, something, and then D flat.
Oh,
Was
yeah.
the progression.
I mean, it was
So
definitely.
it was an extension he had on there to put in the flat
Oh,
nine.
Yeah, I mean, it
For
was.
that
I could hear
tension. Yeah.
the jazz. It was not what I would say is a typical jazz tune, but it had a lot of jazz inspiration in it. I was very, very impressed.
Yeah,
It really was.
That's cool. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's really the key when you understand stuff like that. It can make your stuff stand out and sound beyond basic, because you know how to use the tensions to cause, consonance and dissonance when you want it and where you want it. Very, very powerful technique to use,
At the end of the day, we're all playing chromatic.
Absolutely, yeah. That was one of the, I mean, working with some of the jazz greats I got there, they was like, hey, there's no such thing as a wrong note. You just gotta know, how to resolve from it. You can literally
Make sure
go
you don't
to,
hurt people.
and so I used to love talking or listening to these guys and everything. We'll get Dave to pump into that because Dave and I got the chance to see some of these guys really go. I mean, you have not lived until you see a guy like Herbie and Wayne Shorter have a conversation. And Dave, pipe in for a second.
Yeah, we were talking about guitars, and it's so funny. I just dealt with this last week, having to get a sound out of a guitar live, and nowadays you have a lot of guys that are using computer rigs, so they'll use their laptop to basically be the head and they'll do all their effects in their laptop, and then they'll just go out to an amp. And I tend to notice that especially when established guitar players use this method, it gets them the sound that they want, but for the front of house guy where I'm at mixing the show, it tends to give me a little too much, and it's uncontrollable. In its digital state, it gives them the sound that they want. But for me, I'm trying to mix a show and place it somewhere in the room, it ends up being kind of thin. And I find that, you're back to that EQ question you were asking, shelving or EQ. More often than not, I'll go to EQ because I'm trying to get that space right between the overtone and the resonance and the accents, where I can get the guitar to kind of do what it needs to do and be right where I dial it into the mix, but I don't need it to overpower anything. And it's a fine line when you're doing it live, especially like last week we had like 12 people on stage, right? And the guitar player was right in front of the piano. So that gave me two things competing right there in the same physical location.
Yeah.
And so it can get kind of hard. We had to isolate and do some things because he wanted his amp to be near him, but at the same time it does that, it's also presenting a problem for my piano because I can only go so loud.
Right.
And we're talking Blackbird McKnight, so he was not playing any shallow parts. He was playing screaming solos. So but it ended up working out. But I find more often than not that in the live settings, if somebody's using digital stuff, it gives them the sound that they want. But the thing is, when we translate it out to mixing front of house, it sometimes needs to be beefed up. I find that with a lot of times with some of the computer generated things and some of the software based solutions, they have a tendency to sound on the tinny side. And I won't say the sparkly side, I'll say the tinny side, where it's very thin and brittle, high end. They'll go there real quick thinking that that's a guitar sound to everybody, not knowing that sometimes you need a muted guitar sound, sometimes you need all different kinds of guitar sounds throughout different songs. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge live as well as in the studio. And nowadays we're using both the same plugins you guys are using in the studio. I can use live now.
Exactly.
So that's a new occurrence that we didn't have probably 3-4 years ago. I mean, I had it when we were doing the surround stuff, but it was kind of ahead of its time. But now we have full blown where we have the ability to use all the effects that you guys use in the studio. And that sometimes is good, sometimes is bad, because it goes back to the other thing which we always talk about, which is gain sleep. You can't go right to getting signal and then I'm trying to affect somebody's signal. You got to get the signal that they're going to send you.
Right.
And then get it nice, dry, and thick, and then create a mix that's for the delay factors of that room, which is another thing I find with guitar players. They like to give you the delay that they're hearing in their head on these pre-programmed effects, not realizing that what you're in a venue. A venue has a different delay than what you hear in your head.
Right.
So if what you hear in your head on stage is like cool, and this is just something for all you guys that are guitar players with bands. You got to remember you're playing for yourself when you're on there on stage, but when you're doing the show, you're playing for the audience. So if you're hearing all this delay and you think it sounds great, but the PA guy is dealing with, a slapback or anything else, that delay is messing with his head. If your amp is so high, all you hear is your shit, you're going to need to turn down and realize, okay, maybe I should send him dry, and maybe I should just have enough here so I kind of know what's going to happen. Because sometimes it can be a little much. Sometimes you're forcing the issue because musically you want to go to where you know your part is and how you hear it. But the room that you play in has so much effect on the delivery.
Yeah.
It has so much effect on the delivery.
Yeah. And that's a great point too, Dave, because there's really several factors at hand. So those of you that are maybe trying to record live shows and things like that, or just do live shows and everything, and dealing with guitars and all that, there's several aspects. First of all, you have, like Dave mentioned, you have whatever venue you're in, night per night per night, it changes. The delay, the time that it takes for the sound to arrive at the back of the room and come back is going to be different in every venue, and then it changes as people come in and all kinds of different things. That's a real-time dynamic right there. Then you have something that's more of a fixed dynamic. The guitar player on stage, like Dave was saying, he hears the sound that he wants to hear on stage. And what's happening is every stage is different too. So when you have them playing, and depending on if they're coming through an amp or if they're being piped in from their direct signal but coming in through wedges on stage or whatever, then that blends with a lot of other sounds that are coming. The sound travels across the stage floor, depending on where they're at. So that's a whole nother level of delay happening in their proximity versus the engineer's proximity. Two different delays going on, but they're happening at the same time, and each perspective is different. Then you've got a third component, and there's actually four, because you've got another component, is the delay that the song requires. Every song has a tempo, and you just tempo match your delays to the song in most ideal things. So many times the guys will tempo match it if they have a programmable delay, but other things can affect the perception of that, you know. So how loud it is coming out to you or coming out to the monitor guy, or the combination of both, that effect can totally, where it worked in a controlled environment, in that dynamic environment, it can go crazy.
Yeah, that tempo one is a really good point, because a lot of times what we'll do is, like when you're checking sound, there's nobody in the house. When you fill up the house with people, you automatically lose a lot of low end because they soak it up.
Right.
So a lot of times with that last one you spoke about, where you're like figuring out your delay, you can use the tempo map and figure out your delay, but then you're still going to have to dial down your decay to match the room, because the room is going to be slightly off from the mathematical projection, because again, you're trying to sound like a certain, let's say you're playing a hit, you need to have that decay happen at the right place. It doesn't need to go on and on. I don't know how many people have ever been to a show and you knew there was a line coming and needed delay, but then the delay went on and on and on. And you're like, what happened? You know, because you really are waiting for these parts to do just what they're supposed to do. And so a lot of times we'll dial it into the room for that night, because it might be a shorter throw. It might be that because of the way the cabinets are placed, certain frequencies travel further than others, which makes the whole difference in the delivery of the sound. There's so many different things that go into playing back, which is why it's good that we have these conversations, because we not only are discussing the front side, which is laying down great music, but the other side, which is delivering that music in a live setting, which is kind of like the inverse, you know. So you have to sometimes take those things into consideration, you know. But it's, you know, again, I like it. I like where we're at right now, where we have the ability to kind of, nowadays we can mix the show, and we can also take a laptop, and through some of the more intelligent consoles, we can record 40 channels directly to a DAW, and right from a show without a mobile truck. And that convenience right there allows us to do so much, because now we don't have to wait in order to hear what's going on and make changes or to capture a live event. It just makes it really nice to be able to kind of create content on the spot now.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, like, because even when you said, like, mentioning things like mobile, which maybe a lot of people don't get a chance to run into, that's a whole nother consideration as well, because my mentor Tommy Vicari, for example, he does the Oscars every year, you know, so that's arguably, if not the biggest event, one of the biggest events in the world, period. So the sound's got to be spot on. But when he's doing stuff from that mobile truck, and it's going out to the broadcast world, the delays in that room are a whole nother thing, different than what he's getting in that truck, as opposed to you know, all the other things we mentioned previously. So it's a pretty amazing thing to deal with. You know, and actually I've got to find out from Tommy because I'm not sure if he's actually doing the truck feed or if he's actually doing the live feed in there.
He's doing the live feed. I mean, you mean for the Oscars?
Yeah, for the Oscars, yeah.
I think. Well, he mixed. I know the last one he did. He mixed the orchestra was in Capitol Studios, and he mixed the orchestra in Capitol Studios while they did the show.
Oh, okay,
And
okay.
then they fibered it over.
Oh, they fibered it over. Okay, you know, I
They
never
fibered it
asked
over
him
down
what
the
he
speaker
did.
truck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
good to know.
So, yeah, they have some pretty tricky ways they do now. But
Wow.
it's really cool because Capitol allows you to have your orchestra and have the best of that, and then you're not forced to try and create all these conditions, and then they can still do all this set changes and do what they got to do.
Interesting. You know, he's another one. He's a good one. I'm gonna get him on again
And
one of
Danny
these years
too.
and talk
Danny
about
was-
that. Yeah, yeah, for sure. You know, yeah, that's deep. I mean, the logistics of pulling off something like that, and because it's so huge. I mean, there's no fail safe. You know, you've got to nail it. You know, wow. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that. But okay, but getting back to guitars as well. I want to go to Bill. Bill, if you get a chance, get on here, man, because I want to talk to you. I was hoping we get Jason on here as well because I want to talk some more about dealing with things like metal guitars or rock guitars and stuff like that.
Guess what I've been tracking yesterday?
That's what you were tracking yesterday? Some what, metal guitars?
Guitar.
Metal guitars with custom guitars from the Netherlands.
Ah, cool, cool. Well, tell us a little bit about it, man. What you doing?
I was at Aristides Guitars. It's guitars without any wood except for in the fretboard.
Uh-huh.
I was
Cool.
tracking guitars and bass there. The guys are really cool. They just let me go there, record.
What are they making the guitars out of?
It's a special mixture of chemicals called arium.
Okay. And they're pouring it into a mold?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how was it recording that? How did it resonate and translate and things like that?
If you just strum it, it's like 3 times as loud as an actual guitar.
Mhm.
Wow.
It resonates as a motherfucker. It's crazy.
Is
That's
it like
that's
a
a-
polymer?
That's a technical term.
Yeah.
It resonates really, really hard. It's crazy.
And so how does it record? And you know, sustain
amazing.
and all the stuff.
The sustain is actually somewhat longer than a Gibson Les Paul, and
Uh-huh.
it's a Super Strat model, so
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
it's a relatively young company.
Do you have the URL to their website or anything? That you can share?
I'll find it real quick.
Yeah, share it with some folks and maybe they can check it out. You know, we can help them out. Everybody's watching us. That's interesting too. I like recording different types of guitars and string instruments and things like that. Anybody have any experience with any exotic string instruments? You know, I've done a few different exotic ones. You know,
You ever
mandolin,
mic'd
sitars.
a Kodo before?
You mic'd a what?
Kodo.
Oh, a Kodo, yeah, Japanese Kodo, yeah, those are interesting too. Man, Dave, I used to love it. Didn't you love it when we used to do all those Japanese sessions back in the day?
Yeah.
Man? They were coming over here, huge budgets. They took
I
care of
love-
you quite well.
In the exotic instruments, and then watching everybody's face when, you know, somebody pulls it out, sets it up, and then they go to town doing what they do.
Oh
No.
yeah.
And because it's like nobody's seen it before. They've seen it in pictures, haven't seen it in.
You know,
It's really good to see that. I like that. I like
Yeah.
ancient instrumentation or instrumentation from other cultures.
yeah.
Yeah,
Man, I was just getting started back in this day, but I really wish I could have been hanging around George Duke more when he was doing sukiyaki and all that stuff back then, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because he used to use a lot of exotic stuff that people had never even seen or heard back in the day, you know.
Mhm.
Hey, Khaliq, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm fine. For some reason, my camera is not working, so, you know. Like,
Have you tried signing out and coming back in? Try that.
I'll try that later. But
Oh,
you were talking about exotic instruments. I was based in Mongolia, China, and Singapore for a while, for like 8 years.
oh,
And
wow.
so I got to record a lot of ethnic instruments.
Like what?
There's this one called a horse fiddle. It's just got two strings and it's made out of horse hair,
Oh,
and there are no frets, and it's the most beautiful string instrument in the world for
uh-huh.
me. It's just so exotic. It's like, hair against hair. And the yatuk, which is another string instrument, which is something like the erhu. Uh, uh, Many strings, it's and also a Turkish instrument called dombra, where you pick and there are like three or four strings, and
Uh-huh.
so they sound so different, and they've got such different resonances that not one mic technique works for all of them. Like for
Give us
the
an
horse
example.
fiddle, I wish I could play some music, man.
Well, I mean, just describe it, and
you know.
yeah, we'll get back to that. We'll have you back on one day and
Yeah,
maybe let you play
it's
something.
like the horse fiddle is like a lower register violin. It's like it
Uh-huh.
sounds like four violins playing. It's a really thick instrument.
So how did you approach miking it? Did you approach miking it like a violin or more like a guitar?
It doesn't work. I just wish that I could show you a picture, but all you have to do is just search for Mongolian horse fiddle, and you'll see how it looks like.
Uh-huh.
And I usually mic it with a 47 or a 87 because
Mm-hmm.
it's got such low resonances,
Uh-huh.
so that huge capsule picks it up, and near the bridge because it gets a bit whiny if you pick it up near the frets. So near
Uh-huh.
the bridge of that instrument.
Yeah, okay.
Uh, for the yatak, which has got like it's like a harp, but like you put it on the lap. I kind of mic it up with two stereo mics and a mic below to pick up the resonance as well. Because all these instruments, they've got so much of resonance. They just basically fill up the room. And so when you go into the room, you can even sometimes put room spot mics because they fill up the room so nicely.
Uh-huh.
Especially when it's nice and reverberant. And a lot of these instruments, when you put it into context, you have all these artists singing about clouds, about horse, about animals, and because this is their livelihood. So they sing about this, they sing about let's say the camel, which gives the meat and the milk and all of that stuff. And so like I better not fuck it up. it's like it's like I'm a foreigner there, and they've been and they're used to listening to that instrument a certain way on hearing. So what I do is I listen back to all the references of like 80 years or whatever, and like try and improve on it. Try to make it more hi-fi but keep the same feel. I mean, I also try to understand the song, so what you're singing about, and the words kind of help me mic up. I don't know whether this makes sense, but it really does.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool, man. And well, first of all, I just got to do a real quick switch because Track Slasher has a thing on here that says, I used to care what people thought about me until one day I tried to pay my bills with their opinion. That's pretty good, man. I like that. But anyway, getting back to the guitar, yeah, you can't pay bills with an opinion, so you need some techniques and you need somebody to care about what you do. First of all, the exotic instruments and everything, things like that, people have to also realize, and a lot of people I don't think they do. They approach things from a generic approach, as far as this is why I asked you how did you approach miking it. So when you said like you, for example, you use a large diaphragm condenser microphone because that instrument generates a lot of low end and certain things are going to not capture that as like a thin a diaphragm microphone
Well,
or a pencil mic may get it, but it may not get it as good as the 87 or 47, like you said.
yeah, but usually in conjunction with the small capsules.
Yeah, yeah.
It's yeah, like especially where they're picking or if you want the transients,
Right,
if you
right,
could
yeah.
call it, yeah,
Use a
or
combination of both. Yeah.
yeah, a combination of both, and make sure that phase correlation, like there's no phase stuff happening, and
You got
like
to do that, you know. And
yeah,
then the
and you
direction
get
that
nice
you're
phase.
miking too. So how did you approach that? Because for example, like I said, you approach miking a violin differently than you do a cello, or even you know, a guitar or things like that. Some people think that you do it the exact same way, but where you start pointing the microphones and whether they're coming from above, whether they're coming from angled in, angled out, direct parallel, bridge, net, all these things come in. So how did you approach something like that?
Well, I think you have more experience in me than that, but how I personally approach it is I close one ear and I listen to it in the room, and the room will tell me how I should mic it.
That's good.
And
Well,
it's
let
like
me interrupt you for a hot second on that, and then I want you to continue on that. Didn't we just talk about this on the last Hangout? It's so interesting that you said that. That's exactly an old technique that I learned, and it's not like I discovered anything, but that's it. Microphones are mono. When you want to know what things really sound like, close one ear and hear what the microphone's hearing like. It's mono. Become a mono listener as well to really hear what's going on. Okay, go
and
ahead.
I,
I'm sorry.
and I'm slightly deaf in my right ear as well, so it helps that I close my right and listen on my left.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you.
So it's like yeah, even for different violins, it's like I don't think so. I've ever mic'd them up similarly because they are such different beasts, and it varies from violin to violin, and so that's the beauty of it because every different day it's a different struggle of getting what you hear in the room, in the recording room, translated into what's in the control room.
Yeah, yeah. Something that's interesting to me too. I just happened to think about it. I may have to try this as an experiment one day. I'm so crazy and out of the box sometimes. So it just popped into my mind. I wonder what would happen if one day a mix. First of all, is perspective, and what everybody usually does is they do the mix from the front on perspective. You've got the performance and then somebody's listening to it. Or if they do it from the perspective of the people on the stage, it's still being presented from the left to right. Somebody's listening and somebody's face. Okay, the two listening parties or the two parties are actually facing each other. Band here, audience here, or and then we're listening from this perspective, listening to them, or we set up the panning and all that where it's coming from the stage and we're making the people feel like they're on the stage. Either way, it's a front-on perspective. And I just happened to think about this. I may have to try this. I wonder if anybody has ever done it. What have you ever tried to do, or what does anybody think about this? Maybe chime in on attempting a bird's eye view mix from above. Because that's a whole different perspective. High looking down and mixing from that point of view is a whole different thing than looking at. Just a weird little thought. I don't know. You guys might want to think about that. If somebody has ever done it or tried an experience, I wonder how that would even be approached. EQ would be different, because sound radiates upwardly. So how things, in high frequencies, are going to tend to stay low and congregate lower, as opposed to, when we talk about the height and width of a mix and everything like that. The way the physical waveforms go and everything, it's interesting to think of how would it sound if we mixed it from a bird's eye viewpoint of view. I digress, but that's one of those things where I had a weird thought on that, and I see you smiling over there, Joseph. Am I too crazy? Man, that's kind of
You're probably just crazy enough, brother.
uh,
Just crazy enough.
I may have to try that one day just to see what would it be like if I was a bird listening to the mix.
That'd be
Well,
really neat. Mhm.
if it works for porn, I'm sure it works for music. That POV thing from above.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah, it's it's a different point of view, and it's interesting because we've always viewed music as from the seating position, as an audience member.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, but it would be great to kind of float there, like hanging as a Cirque du Soleil, hovering
yeah,
above the band and listening to all of those instruments. It's a great idea, I think. But the question now is how would you reproduce it?
yeah, right, right.
And in which environment? And it's like like do you have to break out an Atmos system, like a Dolby Atmos thing with like 64 different speakers,
Yeah, right.
or like, yeah, or can you do it in two speakers? That's the question.
Yeah, and it'd probably suck, but it's interesting. Um, have you ever? I've done weird stuff like this. We'll get back to the guitar stuff, but I've done weird stuff like sometimes I'll just sit on the floor and listen to what I'm doing. I don't know if anybody's ever done that. We all hear about like going out of the room or going behind the speakers or whatever. I literally sit down on the floor too. It's a whole nother experience. It's funny how you hear the low end in a whole different way when you do that. And of course it makes sense. You're down there closer with the waves where they're going to congregate. You're going to hear the early reflections that are bouncing down there. But it's an interesting experiment to just kind of see. Uh, yeah, and
Yeah.
Mitchell saying it doesn't matter where you are if you mix in headphones, but that's not true because people listen over speakers. So you got to push air to really get the real perspective. Headphones can go okay, but it can only go so far because they're right in your head. So you have to come outside of that as well too. To have something that's gonna compete with the things that push air as well. So because it might sound great in there, I've seen it time and time again where things can fall apart from just headphones. So I just say that that's a nice point too, but you have to be careful with things like that. And the reason why I'm saying I guess all of this as well as from the different points of view is because when we're getting back to talking about guitars and everything, this is one way that I approach mixing and recording guitars, and see a lot of other people too, is a lot of times you have to move around and kind of hear what's going on with the guitar. You got to, you know, I also think being an engineer, so many people stay in the seat, stay right in the middle of the speakers. This should be a dynamic thing where you are moving your body, getting up, walking around, checking different perspectives, listening from different places, because that's a big mistake that many people do. They get rooted from that one position, and then they don't bring out the strengths from all the positions. So I do. That's part of what I do when I listen to guitar amps and stuff like that, and having to record it. I do like Raghu was mentioning, where you use the one ear technique. I learned that from a guy, in fact, because when I was early on in my career, I did what most people learn. You work with other engineers and you watch them just kind of put it up. So all I did was grab the mics I saw them grab, put it in the approximate positions that I saw them do. But as time went on, I got more experience and got a chance to see. Then that's why I say you start learning about on axis versus off axis. How slight movements, slightly left, right, up or down, checking out the speaker and knowing what parts of the speaker give you a bassier tone as opposed to the thinner tone, how far away to do it when you want to. Here's a thing, a tip for a lot of people that they don't think about. A microphone is just like this. This is a flashlight. And a microphone's the same thing. What you point it at, it's the same basic principle, But what people don't realize is a lot of times, they take the microphone and they'll put it up right up against the grill, And so what's it seeing? It's just seeing that little spot right in there, Sometimes pulling back can find you a broader thing. This is splaying out. The light is splaying out. And the light if I put the microphone close here, it's just getting here. The farther I bring it out, it splays the sound and what it's picking up. And you can use that to your advantage. You can tilt to get different angles of it to get warmth and height. Whether you're going from up and coming down makes a difference. Whether you're going from left and coming right makes a difference in tone. This is how you do. This is what I use the term called acoustic EQ, because you're using the environment and your tools to get the tone before you start turning knobs. That's a very much more powerful way, choosing the right microphone and things like that, deciding where to do it, then deciding whether you're going to supplement it. So this is where I say being active and not passive in how you're dealing with things, not just sitting one spot. Get up and walk around the amp. Is it resonating some sound out the back of the amp? Is it an open back amp? Is it a closed back amp? Even if it's closed back, how is sound coming from that whole thing in that area? What does it sound like back there? I've mic'd amplifiers from front and back, reversing the polarity to see what it does, coming in at different angles to catch different tones to make them blend. All of these things are very powerful in getting the sound long before you even turn the knobs on EQ and compression. They can make a huge difference on how the things just blend together. Doing, and we'll talk some more about the metal stuff and all that, metal guitars and all that, because it's such a big thing. You've got to have an idea of how they're going to all blend together for the final big part of the mix, or you can run into problems later on, So there's a lot of stuff to it. Anyway, I want to pick up with anybody else that wants to chime in on that. Anybody, Track Slasher, you got anything to say? Or Bill, I know we haven't heard from him yet, but Bill, if you want to get on and mention maybe some good techniques that you've come across or been able to deal with, rescue something, sculpt, anything that'll help folks, come on.
One of the things that I like to do, Khaliq, is get the amp off the floor.
Yeah.
If I'm running into any trouble, especially with a bass amp, if it's not a 4 or a 10 or something, most of what I record in the studio are out of lower wattage 112 amps, and I like to keep that off the floor a lot of times. And and as you mentioned about walking around the room with the bass guitar, especially. If I'm micing an amp, I really like to get down on the plane of that amplifier.
Yeah.
I'm not, a big fan of crawling around the room, but if I can elevate the amp, then it makes it easier for me.
Absolutely. And that's a good point too, because see, with the amplifier being on the ground, take, like, say, if this is the amplifier, this is my little tuner, chord tuner here, but you got the amplifier on the ground, it's on something here where you've got these points where the sound is joining. So the sound coming out the amplifier out the front, but it's also joining off the floor and all that. So when you decouple that and pull that away, it definitely, because when it's doing this, it's building up the low end and in the mids and everything, but especially the low end stuff is building it. So just bringing this up here, that's part of EQ as well, getting it away from there where all that stuff is converging and building up on your sound. Getting an amplifier and putting it on a stand, like it's got a stand, so when you angle it up and then mic it from that way is a whole nother thing, because it shoots the sound up and it's kind of off at an angle where it's not going directly at a wall. Turning it left or right can make a big difference compared to the room. If you've got a near wall, you don't want to necessarily turn it to that near wall. You might want to turn it out to the room to get a little bit more for one type of sound, but then you might want to turn it towards the near wall to have it, because knowing that the sound is going to build up there quicker. And there's a lot of little tricks you can do to help build the sound at the capture point, just by using, it's not just a microphone. A lot of people think it's just the amplifier and the microphone, but it is the amplifier, the microphone, it's a proximity of where it is in the room. Like Joseph said, getting it up off the floor sometimes, different angles, deciding whether you're going to go in the front and the back, how close or how far, or you're going to have one mic close and then have a far away mic pick up the sound where it's had a chance to bloom out into the room. And yeah, Joseph. Anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I get excited about this stuff.
Yeah, you didn't interrupt. That was good. That was pretty much all I wanted to say. One of the things I tried, and it taught me a lot, but it didn't really, I wasn't able to capture with it. And this was I want to say Samson, maybe something like that. It was a large condenser microphone, very, very inexpensive. I mean, maybe $50. I mean, it was really cheap. But it had you could plug your headphones into it.
Uh-huh.
And I've had this thought in my mind that if I could make this thing that pretty much sounded terrible, if I could walk around, it was an acoustic guitar at the time, and use this microphone and just keep finding a spot that I could actually capture that acoustic guitar well with this really crappy microphone, then I would learn something about what you were saying, the proximity effect, and mostly what exactly the room was doing to that sound, where it was building up, where it was sounding the best. And like I said, I wasn't able to really record anything with it, but it did give me a whole different perspective on how I approached hearing the room that I was in.
Well, that's interesting that you said that. I used to do something similar, and it's good for learning what's going on there. Back in the days when they had the Sony Walkmans, it had the built-in microphones on there and everything. So I just put some earphones on and walk around my Sony Walkman, put the microphone, have the guitar player play until I heard that little sweet spot where the guitar player is doing it. And sometimes, sometimes it's about being far, near. Inches can make a difference, but it's also can be left or right, can be a big difference as well. And the funny thing with guitar, and I learned about this, like I mentioned, that guy Stav, he had a book called Mixing with the Mind or something like that, Mixing with Your Mind or something like that. But he had mentioned this technique too, where you could simply play some white noise through your amplifier, or just grab the open cord and just hold the end and make it buzz. And then if you hold up a microphone and have headphones on and move your microphone, you'll start finding little sweet spots that reinforce and cancel. So you can find that one little spot that just sounds great and thick and all the tones that you want just from holding that thing going bzzz, or playing white noise through it or something like that. Anything that's a consistent sound, you can find that spot where the sound really just comes together. In fact, that's where you put the microphone. It's really an interesting thing. Anybody that's checking us out and you want to try that with a guitar one day, just give it a shot. You'll be surprised. Because a lot of times we do mic placement by eye. We just kind of think, okay, the mic should go here, but you may end up putting it in a pocket that's actually phase canceling, because guitar is such a complex thing in the way it goes. It really changes in a matter of inches. You may have it where it reinforces like a half inch to the left or right as opposed to the spot that you put it. And until you hear it, you won't realize that it makes that much of a difference. A lot of people just simply put the mic up there or shove it right up against the grill without going through that. The other thing is I had this flashlight. This is your friend on an amplifier if you're trying to mic an amplifier, because turn it on and shine it through the grill cloth to see exactly where your speakers are. And if you shine it through the grill cloth and see exactly where the speakers are, see how they're moving, you can also, if there's two speakers in a cabinet, you can kind of tell which one's the better speaker by just watching how it moves and reacts to the guitar player playing. That's where you want to put the microphone, and then, like I said, knowing whether you put it in towards the center or more towards the edge or in the middle, angle it and all that will give you different tones as far as how bright or how dark it is.
How do you place the angles when you record with guitar amps, in relation to the microphones?
All the time, yeah. Because see, here's the thing too. What I do is the first, or before I do anything, like I say, before we use EQ and all that, first thing you do is go in and listen to what it sounds like. That's what you want to know. What does the guitar player, whoever's playing the guitar, what does he feel is his good guitar sound in the room? You got to know what that is first before you do or touch anything. And then the hard part is, because our memory is so short, the hard part is keeping it in your mind and then getting out and capturing it. You have to make a couple of educated guesses sometimes. So this is why I found the technique of, in the room, I listen to the guitar player, and then I put on some headphones. And the first thing that I do before I use the console is, like I said, I used to use a Walkman or anything that had built-in microphones and kind of find out what that's hearing. If I didn't have anything like that, then I do like you suggested. I'll walk around and listen with both ears open, then I'll put my ear in one ear and walk around and kind of turn towards him or whatever, and see what's going on. I walk to different sides of the room, and then while I'm listening to the guitar and listening to him play, then I'll also listen to the room that I'm in and turn out the guitar. I'm just listening to see what makes me feel best. So if I move to the left, does the guitar seem to sound a little bit better than when I move to the right? Then I'll take a look kind of at the walls and see where I'm at. Where's he at in relationship to it? I'll do like Joseph was saying. I'll look and say, okay, is the amp on the ground? The amp is on the ground. Okay. Thinking in terms of the song and how I want to put it together. Okay, maybe the amp is sounding a little bit too beefy and bassy, so I'm thinking, okay, I might want to get this up off the ground, or if something weird is kind of happening, so all of these things I'm checking out first. Then once I kind of know and have identified an area where I want to go with using all of those techniques, then I go with the microphone. I have to first of all choose the mic, so that's going to be one of those things. Is this a thing where it requires a good old SM57, or does it require a Royer type of sound, get a ribbon mic type of sound? Am I going to need the right combination of preamps for that? And then once I've got it on there, am I going to need angles, and what type of angles? Angling up as opposed to angling down is two different things, because when you're angling down from above and coming down at the amp, you're still getting what's bouncing off of the floor to come back, as opposed to if you put the mic here and put it right in front of the mic but angle it up. It's a whole different tonality, angling left and right. Even if I've got an SM57 which is captured in the front end, I'll go in front, then I'll think about a little bit this way, a little bit this way, maybe up and down, and try little things to see what's up once I found that spot and everything. And these ways are more for tone. Angling is for tone because it gets you off axis a little bit more from the cardioid pattern. So the more it starts getting to the side, it starts getting a little bit darker. So if going straight ahead, it's a little bit too in your face and everything, I might want to do that to just soften it a little bit. Kicks it down a little bit without me touching any EQ. Pulling it back and forward and back, does all these things. So it's a combination of all of those that I use. Angles, distance, the type of microphone, and like I said too, even twisting the microphone. If you got a side address microphone, you can place it straight ahead for the side address, but then I might want to twist it a little bit this way or a little bit that way to have it capture. There's a lot of different little things.
There was an engineer that I recently saw, and he had to mic up the singer and the guitar playing at the same time. The singer was playing the guitar, and so he had to capture the voice and the acoustic guitar at the same time. And I noticed he did something different. He used a figure of 8.
Figure of 8, Mike. Yeah.
On the acoustic guitar, but used a tissue paper to cover the backside of it.
Oh, you use tissue paper to cover it. I've never heard that one. Yeah, that's different.
Yeah, like cover the backside of it, so the open part of the figure 8 was picking up the acoustic guitar, and the top rejection was like
keeps it away from the singer himself. And you have a separate mic. But the tissue paper is nice because I can see that, because that would mute down some of the frequencies that are coming in on the other side of the 8, and so that gives you a little. It's almost making it almost making it a cardioid, but it's giving you still the full rejection of a figure eight on the sides of it. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. I like it. I'd like to try that.
And I've seen dog collars as well. You know those funnels,
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I've seen them on like sometimes on snares and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
I've seen them on drums. Yes.
Like funny stuff. Have you used any of those on, especially when you're miking up drums or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was saying. I learned that technique a long time ago and tried it. Now the thing that I actually got away from some of those things because when I first learned, this was in the early and mid '80s, and I'll be honest with you, I hated the drum sounds from that time period, and I learned, I think, the wrong way because that's when people were getting really crazy with over miking drums, over separating drums and everything. Every drum had a separate thing. Every cymbal had a separate mic. They were all really separated out, gated, and all that super clean, super separation. It didn't sound natural, and that's when them times when I was trying stuff like that, putting little baffles or cones or things around the snare mic to keep it from getting into the hi-hat and stuff like that. I got away from all that stuff because to me it just, it's nice to have the control when you're mixing seemingly, but then what I come to, and it's just my personal opinion, but I think a lot of people came to that is like after a while you have to get back to the drums are not a bunch of individual things. It's still a drum set. And when you listen to the drums in the room, you're only hearing two things, so the control factor of having all these individual things and all this super separation, that's good to be able to fill in some of the things and get a little more of what you want out of there. But if you overdo it, which some of those things can do, and plus, by the way, whenever you put things like that around your microphones, you're altering the polar pattern that the manufacturer gave you. This is this is why they've got things that control how wide and how narrow, whether things are cardioid, super cardioid, and the different patterns like that. When you do something as simple as put your hand around, that's why they tell singers when they got the like the SM58 with the ball on it, say don't put your hand around here. You're changing the polar pattern of how that mic is, so it changes the tone. So sometimes it's something that you want, but I've gotten away from that. I tried it a little bit and I really didn't like it. I started getting back to liking more natural kind of tones. Because to me, it's like the drum kit is a kit. Overall, if that drum kit sounds great in the room when you're listening to it and everything, capture that and use the individual things to just fill it in and give you more of what you need to have control. If you want to be able to have the snare pop in more, it should be filling in. I used to start out drums, and when I used to start out, and it's different for everybody, it works for different things, but some people would start out with each individual drum, make super powerful kicks, super separated, super powerful snares, super separated, then put in the hi-hat and all that, and then by the time you get to the overheads, the kit might sound good, but at the same time, it may not sound quite as real as if you capture it right and approach it from the overheads are hearing the whole kit, all the resonances and everything, and then the other things are to fill it in and then to give the little stuff that needs to punch through and all that. That's kind of where I started reversing my thing, because I did it the opposite way, and I found that I could get to a better sound more consistently by listening to and dealing with the drums as a kit and the individual things, using them to enhance what the overall kit is. And if you capture drums great with your basic overheads, using a minimal miking and everything, if you can get a great sound with basic overhead mics, kick drum mic and snare mic, and fill in with the rest of the stuff, you can, there's been some great records and great drum sounds made with that minimalist approach. Kenny, I see we got Kenny on here. What's going on, man? Welcome Kenny Joy on here. Kenny just recently set up a new group on here to let you guys know about the different hangouts that are going on, and appreciate that, man. Actually, I'm surprised nobody had thought about it before, so I'm glad you did it. Oh, and I want to let you guys know too, I just set it up just like literally a couple of hours ago, but I set up a music mixing success group for my upcoming Music Mixing Success live boot camp that's coming up. I'm shooting for. I actually have some dates now. I've got a bunch of people on here. You know, you guys know that Basie Bob Brockman said that he would like to participate. Trying to get that again. I already asked Kenny, several other people. Bill Kamak is going to be on here doing a presentation. You know what I'm trying to do, and then of course we got Dave Hampton and a few other people that are going to be on here. So I got my boy Joe Gilder from Home Studio Corner, and also Graham Cochran from Recording Revolution is going to be on here. This is going to be a thing that's going to be really cool, and I'm trying to do it as a combination of live. For the last couple of years that I've been doing this, I've had live events, but it require everybody to travel to LA. Not everybody can do that. So to get a broader experience for everybody, I want them to be able to experience it via some type of live streaming process. So I'm in the process of working it out. I'm shooting for probably towards maybe around maybe the 24th, 25th of October is what I'm shooting for. Got to make sure everybody's times can work out for that, or if we're going to do anything recorded, we can pipe it in. However we're doing, I'm still working out the logistics, but that's the time I'm shooting for. Anyway, I say all that to say I just set up a Facebook group for that, and then I'm going to start populating it with information about the event coming up, getting ideas. I want ideas and suggestions from you guys of what you would like to see, what would be helpful for you. Anybody that there's so many people on here that if you feel that you might even want to submit yourself and apply to do a presentation on the event, I'm totally open to it, because as you see, like our group, what makes our group a little bit different is because you know, like while we've got a mixture of people coming in that are, you know, Grammy Award winners or multi-platinum, gold and platinum records, things like that. Then we've got people that are just great at what they do, and we're all kind of, you know, like I always tell you guys, it doesn't matter what awards you get and things like that, because all that's really part of luck of the draw. You know, sometimes you're just in the right place at the right time. You meet the right people, they like what you do, and say, hey, be on this project, and then boom, it explodes, you know. So that's luck of the draw. Some people go their whole lives, though, and they may not get that same type of luck of the draw, but they may be just as good, if not better, than the top people that we know about. So I want to give those people a voice. If you're one of them, you may be able to do a presentation to show some things that can be helpful to this community, and I'm totally open to it, you know. So, you know, you want to send me an email. In fact, I'm going to put in my email here so that if anybody wants to shoot me an email and say, hey, Khaliq, I think I got a great thing that might be beneficial for you. I can't guarantee everybody or getting in or anything like that. It's a limited amount of spots and stuff like that. But I am open to hearing what you may be able to contribute, because that's what this is all about, for helping everybody and having everybody get it. So you can send me an email to Khaliq at Khaliq-O-Vision.com. That's my email address up there. And if you want to be notified of some of these Hangouts, you can go on mymusichangouts.com, or I'm still in the process of doing Mixing Academy. I've been telling you guys about that, but I haven't had a chance to get in and get it finished. But that's going to be a great resource as well. But any one of those will get directly to me is the whole point. So shoot me an email if you got some ideas. If you know somebody that's like, Khaliq, you need to have this person on, and he's my boy, so why don't y'all talk? I can hook y'all up directly, and you think it'll be a great thing to have on and very valuable. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm totally open to anything and everything, and we can have a conversation. Anyway, the group is going to be facebook.com/groups/music mixing success. You know, it's not, it doesn't have anything. Like I said, I literally just set it up, but it will. So be on the lookout for that one. I'll announce it more. Anyway, guys, hey, Dave, I want to get back to you for a second. Let's talk some more about some live stuff.
Yeah.
Now, mixing guitars live and everything is as much of a challenge as anything, because like you said, there's so many variables that come into place. But one of the things, and I want to talk about this as opposed to some of the different techniques about miking, because one of the easiest things is either put the mic right directly up against the grill, and because it's a live environment, that works more often than not, because you can't really be far away. You're going to start picking up other stuff from the stage. The other thing is to simply put the mic cable through the handle on the cord and let it just kind of hang down in front of the grill. It's another technique. But mention a couple other things that might be helpful to people.
Well, sometimes they have special clips now that actually hold the microphone kind of at off axis. If you want to kind of tilt it or whatever, it'll hold it in front of the cabinet. You put two in front of the cabinet. You go in stereo, you could do that. They make all kind of apparatuses and arms to position mics. Sennheiser even has I'm trying to think of the model number, but they even have a couple of mics they make specifically for guitar amps that are, position the capsule in the way that the holder is right at the right angle. The other thing we do is we use ISObox a lot.
Yeah.
And an ISObox is basically a box where you can overdrive the amplifier, but you don't get all the surrounding noise for what's going on. So basically you have like a custom-made road case, or you can just do it with an ISO box, and you just have it so that you could slip your amp head in there on one side, you turn it up, and then the other side it's all foam lined. You have like a 57 or some kind of mic, and that mic goes out to your DI and then goes out to you, and it splits off, sends a signal to you, sends a signal to the monitor guy. And it allows you to turn the amp up and have all the meat of a overdriven amp, but you're not strained by the fact that you've got that amp next to somebody else and you're picking up all this other noise.
Yeah.
If you ever wonder how you can, somebody like a Prince can play a blistering guitar solo and it just sounds like it cuts through everything. ISO boxes is why.
Yeah.
Underneath the stage where you don't see anything is just a big case with amps in it, and it's got microphones at the other end, and they just pop it in and turn it up, and allows you to have an isolated sound that's nothing but guitar, but it's basically simulating that same function that's done in the studio.
Yeah.
So I think that's the one thing that I really like to see, because clean stages are really attractive. The things we used to do aren't really done anymore. You see a lot of people playing in-ears now and things like that. But I think a clean stage is a real attractive thing. I think also when people really play their instrument, that's always something that's really it's coming back into fashion. It never left, but there are times when the marketing of music makes it so that the thing that's highlighted isn't necessarily musicianship. So I think we're coming back around to a time where we're going to be looking a lot more at people showing musicianship. A lot of people at an early age, too. A lot of the press you're starting to see, YouTube, some of the other stuff, you're starting to see younger and younger artists who actually play their acts and play it well.
Very well.
Plus
and so they know theory, so they're doing some musical stuff that's so complex now, way beyond when I started.
Yeah, and the thing is, because they're young, they know theory, they're doing complex moves fast, it's in fashion. Notice trending. Notice how it will become in fashion, but the bottom line is it was always in fashion, because when you look at the greats were their age doing the same thing when they were young.
Yeah,
so
right.
It never really left. It never left out of style. It made its way back around. So what we're looking at is, yes, it's truly amazing when you see talented people do that and apply themselves, but it is not like it was totally out of left field. It was always there.
Yeah.
It was always there.
I love that guitar is back now.
Oh, yeah.
Guitar went away for a bit, but guitar is back.
Guitar is back for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's back for a little while, and actually there's some really good modeling guitars and some of the other things that are coming along. I just was working last week with Daryl Jones, who plays the bass player for the Rolling Stones, but he has his own line of basses, and so I think he's experimenting with possibly putting some stuff on there. We were talking about experimenting with a couple of basses, putting something on there. So I think everybody's looking at the technology now and seeing what it used to. It wasn't at the point where we could do the things we do today, to where you can actually outfit a guitar and have it actually play some really nice other sounding instruments. You know, the modeling guitars from Line 6 are intense.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
And here's the thing too. Now, getting back to talking about people using their laptops these days
Oh
instead
yeah,
of carrying around a big rig and everything. I mean, their whole sound literally can just carry with them under their arm now, and it's not bad at all. It used to be
yeah,
early on. It was, you know, it was a little funny, but now it really is legitimately there for the most part. I mean, real guitar sticklers will know the difference, but the average person, especially if it's fitting in the context of a big production of pop, R&B, rock, whatever type of production, nobody's going
right.
to notice those differences.
Yeah, yeah. The laptop thing is here to stay. I think also the downloadable experience. Several companies have very big downloadable catalogs of effects and setups.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can get Hendrix's whole setup modeled right for you. You just load it in. You can
Yeah,
get any of the big guys, big name guys that are legends
yeah,
out there. You can just download their thing into a lot of devices these days. It's pretty
right.
amazing, and they're very, very accurate. You know, but the one thing you can't download is their fingers and their talent and their touch. Still can't do that yet. If so,
Yeah,
I would have had it a long time ago.
that's true.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I guess we lost Bill. I was gonna try and get Bill in here to say something about some rock and metal stuff and all that, but it's all good. But anybody else want to chime in any more on this subject? We got Kenny on here. We got Track Slasher. You know, and we haven't really heard from these guys. If you guys want to talk about any aspects of dealing with guitar, that'll be helpful to people. We can get on there. If not, we can probably wrap this up for this evening. I know it's getting late in some parts of the world. Well, cool. I guess everybody's kind of cool. Did we covered a lot, didn't we, guys? Was that pretty cool for everybody? I think that was a subject that we don't get to touch on a lot, talking about dealing with guitars. Was that cool?
Yeah, I'm good. I am. I do have to go myself anyway, but I was an excellent hangout. I really like hearing you guys' stories, and I like hearing the techniques that you're putting into practice on a daily basis. You know,
Cool, 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 man.
it
Well,
is.
thank you so much for hanging out again with us. And everybody, I guess if nobody has no last minute stuff, we'll wrap it up for the day. You know, go back and watch the hangout again if you want to catch some of the little tips and tidbits that we talked about. And be on the lookout now for my next music mixing success boot camp. My live boot camp that I've been holding for the last couple of years is coming back, y'all, this year. We're going for probably October 24th, 25th, and I may even do a third day on the 26th. I haven't decided yet, but it'll be at least 2 days, but possibly three. Gathering all the different folks to be on here and be a part of this. Dave, one person I want to reach out to that I think would be really cool. So I don't know if you have it. I haven't found. I don't have his number, but I'm gonna start hunting it down. I would love to hear from George Massenberg. You know, I think he would be a great one to get on there. A couple other people. Uh, Dave, you and I should put our heads together on a couple of things. You know, I want Dave to do a real great presentation for you guys, and we're going to hit it from a couple of different things than we have from the last couple of years too. So this next one is really going to be something special. I really feel it. Bill Kamek's going to be on here doing some training for you guys. You know, Bill's a wealth of information. He's been learning a ton of stuff, and we're going to get him to show you guys some stuff, and then we're all going to interact and learn from it because I learned from him and all these other guys. My will be on here. We'll get him involved. Some of the other people that you know. But like I said, if you got some ideas for me, shoot me an email. Shoot it to Khaliq at Khaliq-O-Vision.com. Be on the lookout for Music Mixing Success, the new Facebook group that I put on there. There's nothing in it yet, but it's coming soon. So be on the lookout for me to post that. And you guys post your ideas, post your recommendations for anybody you think should be on this on this next event, Music Mixing Success. If you want to take a look at the web page for the last one that we did, go to musicmixingsuccess.com and just take a look. I haven't changed it to the new one yet, but I'll start working on that. But if you want to see the kind of things we do and all that, go check it out. Anyway, guys, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and everybody have a wonderful day.